Now, there's a debate about whether Trump's Iran attack was actually all about China, and a big part of that, of course, is oil. Donald Trump has just announced to reduce disruption to global oil through the Strait of Hormuz, which handles 1/5 of the world's supply. The US will provide insurance and the US Navy, even, if needed, escort tankers through this choke point. Now, Iran is one of China's biggest allies, and Beijing has been funding Tehran's activities by taking between 80 and 90% of all Iran's crude oil exports, though at heavily discounted prices. Now, looking at it from the other side, experts estimate around 14% of China's oil imports are from Iran, deliberately rebranded from other countries, and therefore not showing up in official statistics like these that we are showing. But when you add up China's Gulf country imports, that's Saudi Arabia, Iraq, UAE, Oman, and Kuwait, or 41% of Chinese imports, then adding the 14% from Iran, this brings the percentage to well over 50%, severely affecting China's energy security. So bringing Ilan back in from Washington. So does the Iran attack hit China where it hurts?
So I think so. I think it's necessary to understand that economic disparity that you mentioned, those numbers, they cut two ways. This is significant for China. It's not catastrophic for China in the sense that China can find alternative sources of supply for that 14% of imports. China has been very diligently cultivating other countries in the Persian Gulf, including Saudi Arabia, and it has the ability to scale up alternative sources. But on the other side, for the Iranian regime, this is truly catastrophic because China is really the engine, has been in the past the engine, and now is the lifeline for the Iranian economy. Without China as a reliable supplier, without the ability to outship oil in a real sense, with the United States essentially choking off Iran's ability to hit export markets, I think this is, potentially game changing in the context of Iranian viability, the government's viability.
And so, Ilan, to the question about whether Trump was actually weakening China. I mean, Trump has weakened Iran, or is attempting to weaken Iran, so that he can weaken China.
So I think that's interesting. And again, thinking of the troika, to use a Russian word, right? These three countries that are aligned together. Iran is obviously the weakest prong, and China is the strongest, and Russia's in the middle. And so, yes, I mean, given our audience, given, what we're talking about, China is front of mind. But I would point out that President Trump has Russia in mind, I think, before China. And the reason I say that is because the president has outlined a June deadline for a cessation of hostilities between Moscow and Kiev. And so my sense is that for the advisors in the White House, the near-term objective is to reset the table and to convince Vladimir Putin that the United States is serious and is not to be trifled with. I think the knock-on effects of that, the knock-on effects of greater credibility, rebound into the Indo-Pacific as well.
So it appears to be a strategy that works on many different levels. Gemon, just if you could comment about this, the Sun Tzu strategy, disrupt or break the enemy's allies, because we had the example of Venezuela, now Iran, and Ilan mentioned Russia, of course. This CRINC, which is the axis, authoritarian or axis of evil, given that China has now, as you said, not stepped up to help these allies, is it effectively dead?
CRINC still is viable because China is still supporting Russia in its war against Ukraine. The North Koreans are also helping Russia against the Ukrainians. The part about Iran, part of that, the I in CRINC has been greatly chopped down, let's say. Don't forget, Iran supplies a lot of the drones that Russia uses against Ukraine. So that's a factor against Russian desires to gain more territory in Ukraine. But I will point out that this is actually a similar concept that Israel pursued against Hamas first, then Hezbollah, a little bit on the Houthi side, and now Iran. So this idea of, let's say, what I use is, let's say, plucking the legs off of a cockroach or a scorpion, however you want to use the phrase, is working quite well. Because by taking out Hezbollah's leadership, that was a great deterrent against Israel on attacking Iran.
Right, and it's this idea that, this sort of grey zone warfare by, say, Iran, in terms of, Hezbollah, those groups, that there is a cost, that it doesn't mean that there's impunity for Iran. And Donald Trump has basically blown that apart.
Right, and I think from China's and Russia's point of view, it makes them think about what they're doing around the world, because China is also doing similar activities by disrupting a lot of countries that are allies of the United States. So I would say in the big scheme of things, the idea of taking apart, as you mentioned, Sun Tzu, removing the allies and the support system of your enemy is quite effective. And it could be also, another way of putting it is divide and conquer, what the Romans did. And that could be the strategy, the counter strategy that the Chinese use, going back to the 3 wars strategy, which is creating conflicts around the world to dissipate the U.S. ability to respond to a Taiwan crisis.